Hey everybody, I'm Phil.
And I'm Jenny.
Welcome to a special New Year's edition of Angry Asian America. Happy New Year. We're looking back at the stories of 2014 and looking at the best and worst of Angry Asian America. You ready to do this?
Let's do it. All right, Angry Asian America, it is time for the best people of 2014. To get us started, we gotta talk about one of our favorite people. Come on, Phil. Arthur Chu, Jeopardy champion, Jeopardy rock star. Why do we love him?
I love Arthur because he's just an unabashed nerd, unapologetic about it. You know, he comes in there.
Arthur Chu don't give a
gangster style, rolls into Jeopardy, and he just basically demolishes the competition.
He's like the second winningest guy, right?
Super unorthodox sort of playing style. He comes in, cleans up, and he becomes sort of a notorious figure because of it. But then on top of that, he uses his notoriety to sort of sound off on like really big issues. He becomes a really prolific columnist, blogger.
Yeah.
You know, who would have thought like this Jeopardy champ goes on to become like a thinker, you know?
Yes. And what's great is like during his run on Jeopardy, when people were trying to call him out on Twitter about, hating on him for like doing a bounce and not doing a conventional strategy, an aggressive strategy, he was like, you know what, I'm not gonna take this lying down. I'm gonna talk back. Like he was firing back and we're like, yeah man, if you're an Asian American nerd, you could talk the fuck back.
Yeah.
And it's totally cool. And for him to parlay it into now being able to like write these amazing think pieces about nerd culture and feminism and Gamergate, like amazing. So we love you, Arthur.
You're the best.
You're the best.
All right, next up, best of 2014 is our homeboy, Randall Park. Actor, comedian, writer, I mean, he does it all. He's killing it. You might have seen him recently in the very controversial film, The Interview. Where he stars
that.
Yeah, you may have heard of it. Where he stars as North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un.
But really, the primary reason why we think he's the best of 2014 is he is the star of the upcoming ABC sitcom, Fresh Off the Boat. Fresh Off the Boat!
You know, I've never seen a show that hasn't even aired yet. It's not airing until February 2015. But it's got so much buzz. People are so excited. I don't remember the last time I was this excited about a show.
All right, another one of our best of 2014 is the new comic book series, Ms. Marvel. You love it.
I love it. I love it. It debuted earlier this year, and it was just really great comic book following the adventures of a Pakistani-American teenager named Kamala Khan. You know, people didn't really know how well it was going to do, but I was pretty excited, and it ended up being really awesome, really fun story.
It sold a lot.
Yeah, it totally broke a lot of records, and it was just well written, well drawn. It's just the way a really fun comic book should be, and it's about someone who you don't usually see depicted in superhero stories.
All right, another one of our best of 2014 is stand-up comic Hari Kondabolu.
Woo!
We love him. And honestly, you know, he's one of the people that has inspired my stand-up comedy. I had the amazing chance to open up for him at a college show last year, and he's had a great year.
He came out with a new album, Waiting for 2042. I just love his brand of comedy, which is really smart, pointed observations about race, culture, and you know, in these tumultuous times, we need a guy like that, kind of cutting through the bullshit and using humor to sort of diffuse really serious topics. You know, while we're on the topic of smart, funny comedy, I also want to give a shout out to my colleague Jenny Yang.
Yay.
She was in a BuzzFeed video called
If Asians Said the Stuff White People Say.
If Asians Said the Stuff White People Say. I mean, it went viral, people thought it was clever, people sharing it widely, but I think part of the reason why it was so popular is because you know, we got to have a conversation. It was a conversation starter about these little microaggressions that Asians face every day.
Yeah.
You know, to help diffuse the situation and sort of talk about, hey, let's talk about these things we deal with, these annoying racist things that happen every day. So
yeah, I mean, we can't cure racism, but I think this has been a good year for a lot of different Asian American video producers and comedy people to talk back about our perspective on race.
Thank you, you know, Hari, Jenny Yang. Shout out to our friend Christina Hwang.
Yeah.
People who are making these kinds of videos. I mean, you're doing good work. You're doing the Lord's work. So keep it going.
You're the best.
You're the best.
Another one of our best of 2014 is comedy legend Margaret Cho.
Well, in addition to being sort of just an awesome person,
Yes.
why is Margaret Cheryl on the list?
Okay, so if you haven't heard about it, actually recently the New York Times covered this, but Margaret went to her hometown of San Francisco and spent the last month raising money for the homeless, but this is how she did it. She actually went busking, so she was out on the streets the way San Francisco used to be, where you could just go and perform, and she asked for people to donate or to donate money just to take a picture with her. So in just like a month, she made over $20,000 for the homeless of San Francisco, which is amazing. And tis the season, right? Yeah, and what's really great in addition to doing an awesome thing like this, she's been in the news because she actually just got picked up for a new talk show on TLC that's gonna start in 2015 this year to talk about sex. I mean, you know, Margaret Cho, sex, comedy, all of it. All right, angry Asian America, it's time to smack talk. This section is all about the worst people of 2014. Let's just get us started with one of the worst people, Mark Wahlberg. Marky Mark is such a good vibration. Anyway.
Stop.
Look it up. It's crazy.
YouTube it, kids.
Anyway, but Mark Wahlberg, what's the reason why we think he's one of the worst of 2014?
Okay, so this year Mark Wahlberg applied to the Massachusetts Board of Pardons to have basically a hate crime that he committed as a teenager expunged from his permanent record.
Yeah. And why?
So when he was a kid, he basically assaulted a couple of Asian dudes, you know, beat them up, robbed them, and was convicted.
Yeah.
You know, and now he wants all that removed from his record permanently. You know, it's
because he wants to expand his business and get alcohol licenses in many states, whatever. You know, he has a restaurant.
It makes it harder for him to expand his business with, you know, a conviction on his record.
Yes.
But
here's our issue. What's our issue?
So he says he wants to show people that he's turned his life around and that set an example to the youth that he's not the same guy he was when he was a kid, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think that he's clearly not the same guy he was. He has turned his life around.
Yeah.
But he's afforded this privilege because he's a famous guy. I mean, there's a lot of people who have bad stuff on the record who have turned their life around, but that record has remained the same.
Yeah. So personally, I'm not like against people being able to expunge their juvenile records. You know, we mess up when we're young. But what makes Marky Mark different is that he's an outstanding public figure with considerable resources, and he's afforded an opportunity to get his record expunged, unlike a lot of other people who don't.
Right.
And because he's outstanding and has resources, maybe this is his chance to atone for all the racist shit he did when he was a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
You don't get a break because you're famous. I mean, that's clear. That's sort of the overall arching lesson here, I think. And you know, I think that's wholly unfair for him for people to sort of forget these terrible things he did because you were in Transformers.
Yeah.
I mean, like, no.
Totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, Marky Mark, you're the worst.
You're the worst. All right, next up on the worst people of 2014, Bobby Moynihan. Now, I got nothing against Bobby Moynihan, but he's sort of indicative of a larger problem at Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Bobby Moynihan regularly plays Kim Jong-un, who is North Korean. Bobby Moynihan is not Asian at all.
Moynihan, very Irish.
Yeah.
Very Irish.
Super un-Asian. But he's, you know, every time they have a skit about North Korea, he plays Kim Jong-un, and I'm like, it points to...
And why? Why?
Because...
There's no other Asians on Saturday Night Live.
I mean,
Boo.
It's part of a larger problem that's just plaguing Saturday Night Live, its lack of diversity, and they've never had identifiably Asian cast members, right?
Yeah.
So they have to do yellowface every time they want to do a sketch about North Korea, which happens a lot because it's in the news a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And every time you see Bobby Moynihan in the weird, like, his getup, you're like, this is just awkward.
I know.
It's awkward.
It's horrible.
It happened several times over this last year, and every time I saw it, I'm like, this just takes me out of this. And like, why can't Saturday Night Live get an Asian cast member?
Yes.
It's been around for 40 years, and they've never had one, you know?
Asians can be funny too, you know.
For real.
Next up on the worst people of 2014, I'm gonna get the names right. Let me pull this up right here. Brian Vaccaro, Cody Blanchett, and Wyatt Keeger. And all the other horribly racist Facebook commenters on this video of cartoonist Vishavit Singh, okay? Horrible. You're the worst.
So, for all y'all don't know, Vishavit Singh is a cartoonist. Facebook featured him in an ad, basically just talking about the new features of Facebook. Vishavit is Sikh, so he wears a turban and a beard, as is, you know, in accordance with his religion. People saw this video and were just basically decided, like, racist as hell. and making comments about being a terrorist and all these other racial slurs.
They went in. They
Yeah.
went in. Like every other comment was like horrible people, including Brian Vaccaro, saying like, "Oh, could be a terrorist." I mean, what? Like, watch the video. He is not a terrorist just because he's like looks different than you.
I mean, it basically goes to sort of the broader problem of people being like, I can say whatever I want online, and
Yeah.
if you see something different, I'm gonna be racist. It gives me license to be totally blatantly offensive. And so, you know, we decided we'd take a moment to call you guys out. Because if you're gonna be publicly racist on Facebook, we're gonna publicly call you out. You're the worst.
You're the worst.
All right, next on the list are the worst of 2014. Candice Brito and Vanessa Zavala, two women who were convicted of killing Kim Pham. Did you hear about this, Jenny?
Yeah, I mean it's nutty. Everyone else heard about this. Basically, in Orange County, this Vietnamese American woman was outside of a nightclub, and you know, it's like what's so senseless about her death is that it's like any typical night outside of a nightclub, right? You accidentally brush up against each other. People just like feel like you're mad dogging them, and so you kind of get into it.
Yeah.
But what didn't have to happen was that it had to escalate into each of them beating each other up, and then in the end, with Kim on the ground getting kicked in the head, that eventually became fatal, right?
Yeah, beaten to death basically over
nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, like a
Senseless.
stupid interaction outside a club. Probably happens every Saturday night.
Yeah.
And then, but it ends up this woman beaten to death, brain dead. You know, a couple days later they pulled the plug, and you know, and then these two women were convicted of her murder in the summer. And so it's like, and then on top of all that, people were just standing by and filming the assault.
Well, they were kicking the shit out of her.
Yeah, not doing anything to help. It's just one of those stories. It's just like none of this had to happen. None of this had to happen. So it's just heartbreaking, you know.
Yeah. Now, another of the worst of 2014 is fake cancer mom from Aurora, Colorado. Ooh, like honestly, we've already talked about her in a previous episode, but it was such a horrible situation of Asians behaving badly. We had to shout it out because she's the worst.
Yeah, definitely filed under Asians behaving badly. I mean, basically this mom, she pretended that her son had cancer, her 6-year-old son had cancer, would shave his head regularly and fool the community into believing that he had cancer, and fooled the kid into believing that he had cancer.
So she could get stuff.
Yeah, so she could raise money on behalf of his care, you know? It's like the worst thing possible, you know? So they raised thousands and thousands of dollars for this kid who purportedly had cancer. At some point, somebody figured out that she was lying the whole time.
Mommy tells me I have cancer.
I mean,
what?
You're telling the kid that he's going to die, right?
know.
Basically, the kid believes that he's going to die, and so, you know, they raise all this money.
She's
the
worst.
They take him to Disneyland. She's just terrible parenting. Terrible mom, terrible person.
Fake cancer mom of Aurora, Colorado. You're the worst.
You're the worst.
All right, you guys, that's it for the best and worst of 2014. It was so hard to narrow it down. Maybe you have an idea. Comment below. Who are we missing? Who's the best and worst of 2014 in Angry Asian America for you?
Special thanks to Studio 5A for letting us shoot here. Be sure to subscribe to ISAtv for future episodes. Check out my website, angryasianman.com, to see what's going on in Angry Asian America. And until next time, stay angry.